Okay, now I'm recording. Okay, so the test is put on the 28th. We definitely need to move that up since we're done with chapter 10 here. Chapter 10 homework is due this weekend. We definitely want to get chapter 6 through 10 exam done next week. We'll put it on Thursday maybe and see how that goes. And then of course we need to move some more homework here. After this week, we have 2 weeks left to decide what we want to study. So what we'll do is on Monday, we'll kind of just next Monday, we'll decide what chapters we want to study. I think that most people were in favor of studying the fluids stuff. And so we'll probably go ahead with that, and we'll try to cover, for these last 2 weeks, we'll probably try to cover more than one chapter a week, maybe 2 chapters a week. They're not, since we've learned all of the basics, these next few chapters are not necessarily as difficult. So we'll try to get through them. We'll try to crank through them. I don't know exactly how many homework problems are in each one of them, but we'll see what we can do here. Looks like we have fluid statics and fluid dynamics. Fluid statics has, looks like 19 questions, but most of these questions are not, I would say probably a lot more of the questions on these problems are not calculation intensive. They're mostly just understanding concepts more to the point. And then fluid dynamics, a very similar thing. So we'll try to cover both chapters 11 and 12. This one only has 8, so that's even, that's much less work. And then probably go to heat and temperature. Let's see, do we want to do heat transfer or not? I don't know. I'm not so sure that I want to go into heat and temperature. I think for most people that's not as valuable. That's starting to get into like thermodynamics, which is really useful if you're going to be an engineer or a physicist, but not as useful for most people. So then maybe we try to cover fluid dynamics this next week, and then maybe jump on to oscillations, waves, sound, and hearing. Well, we'll do heat and temperature really quick, but then we'll move on. Try to see if we can.
Do you have an idea of what the final will have in it then?
Yes, the final will contain a few questions from whatever chapters we cover the last 2 weeks. Probably something like 10 questions. And then it'll also have a few questions from the previous 2 exams, maybe 5 questions from each of the previous 2 exams. So a total of probably around 20 questions. And you'll have more time to do it than previous exams as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? Any homework questions? Any questions about concepts or confusions?
I think the only question I had, and I actually got an email about this too from someone else, is that I'm kind of having trouble keeping track of my labs. So I think I have 2 to do, but I might have 3.
Okay, so we need an overview of the labs that need to be turned in. That's a very good question. Since I'm still kind of working on how these labs work from home, I haven't put together a really good comprehensive list, so I probably should do that. Let's see, we need to go to the IO lab files. And while we're doing this, I'll make a list so that I can post it on this website here. So we did, I believe, let's see. So I think we did this first lab where you were just learning to use the ILab, right? So lab one, but that one I think I encouraged you to use the videos more than anything. So that's the introduction with videos.
I think as far as the IO lab files go, we got to 5, and I think he told us to pause.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So we did lab 1 through 5. And the reason we paused is because lab 6, I believe, is a rotation one,
Yes.
which means that's one we should probably do now. Yes, it is. So lab 6, we can go ahead and add to our list of labs to do. We can do that this week or next week or whatever. So lab 1 through lab 5 is all linear motion and forces. And then lab 6 is rotation. Now within those chapters, we did some other ones. We did some labs out of the book, essentially, some activities out of the book, essentially. And we also did the collisions lab, which I sent home. Let me take a look at. Okay, so we did one at the end of chapter 7. So there's a chapter 7 activity that we did end of the chapter. I don't remember which one that is, but we'll find it in a second.
I think that one was maybe kinetic energy versus potential energy at the bottom of the ramp.
Yeah, I think that one. I think you're right. That was the ramp with kinetic energy and potential energy. We also did one with collisions that I sent out after that, I believe.
The collision, are you referring to the 2 cars?
Yes. Calculating rotation. Yeah, so that one is chapter 7. Yes, that was the chapter 7 one. All right, so then I think it would have been chapter 8 where we did something with our with 2 cars, or we were supposed to. I realize that not everybody has finished that yet, but let's go ahead and take a look at when I sent that out, because I do have a
Yeah.
record of that somewhere here.
Yeah, I know you sent out the email with the collision lab on it, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, let's see here. Collisions lab. Yeah, here we go. So the collisions lab was sent out for chapter 8. So chapter 8 collisions lab. And did we do one with friction as well on a ramp? I can't remember.
I think that was lab 4 in IO lab.
Was that lab 4? Okay,
Yeah, I think so.
we're good. That's a total there of 6, 7, 8 labs. What was the one that I asked you to do last week? That one was also from the book.
Are you talking about with the cans?
Yes, the rolling cans.
I think that was in 10.4.
Sounds about right. So there's the rolling cans lab. And then we move on to lab 6 in IO labs stuff. Lab 7 in IO labs we haven't talked about, I don't think, and I don't remember what it is, but let's take a look. Yeah, so lab 7 we may end up doing, it depends on how far we get. And then lab 8, I believe, is a sound lab. Let's take a look at that. No, it's a pendulum lab. So it's those two are from the same chapter. So lab 7 and lab 8 are from the oscillations lab or oscillations chapter, which we will probably get to. If we can get through both of the fluids chapters next week, then we'll probably have time to do temperature and oscillations last week. So yeah. Any other, so did I miss anything, do you think? I think we got them all.
Yeah, I think we did get them all. Can we just do like a quick recap real quick? So we had 0, 1, 2.
I'm actually going to send out a message right now. So
Oh, okay, cool. That
I'll
works.
open up the message thing and show you. Let's take a message. Okay, labs or physics. IO labs 1 through 6. And then we're doing the chapter 7 activity with ramp. It's at the end of the chapter.
It's 7.3.
Is that the end or not the end?
I think that's like halfway through.
7.3.
I can double check real quick.
That's kinetic energy and potential energy activity. And it's not terribly different, I don't think, from one of the labs, from one of the IO labs. I think it was a little bit different, but I don't remember exactly how different. So anyway.
Yeah, 7.3 at the bottom.
Yeah. And then we also have chapter 8, the chapter 8 lab, which is the collisions. And that one, I sent an attachment through my open math to the lab attachment uses different tools. They uses different lab equipment, but I wanted you to adapt it and do similar experiments on your own, kind of design your own experiment from that, which is again kind of something you don't often see in a science classroom, but it's something that I do at least every year, where I give you a lab that somebody else has done and have you adapt it or change it. In my physics and engineering classes, I go one step further. I actually make them read a paper, an actual scientific paper of an experiment that has been done and the results of that experiment, and have them try to reproduce those results of that experiment. So that's quite a bit harder, but in this case, you just have to read somebody else's designed lab and try to adapt it to the IO lab equipment. And then there's the chapter 10, which is the rolling cans. What was chapter 9? I can't remember what chapter 9. That's the wrong book. I don't know, doesn't matter. Oh, here's chapter 10. Here's our book. Goodness, this thing is zoomed up super huge. Chapter 9 was statics and torque. Oh yeah, I actually have a really good lab for that chapter 9, but I need to do some pretty big work to make it work, to make it usable with or doable with the IO labs. The IO labs have the ability to do this. The lab that I want to do with the statics and torque is a lab where you actually use your own arm as a you actually measure the torques and the forces on the tendons in your arm using the IO labs, and that is something that's still in the making. But I'm very confident it will be a good lab eventually. So anyway, any other questions about the labs? I will send that off here unless we have any concerns or questions before I send it.
Nope, thanks.
Okay, that is on its way. Any other questions on the homework or in the chapters, any chapters, since we have an exam coming up next week? None at all? Last call? Going once, going twice? Okay, so next week on Monday, I will be possibly teaching from McCook. So don't try to come out to North Platte and come to class. Nobody has done that for a while, but don't try to come out to North Platte to come to class live, because I probably will have to travel to McCook and possibly might have to teach from there. Next Wednesday, I will actually be at another youth camp, but this youth camp should have pretty good internet connection. I'll be staying in a cabin, not in a tent. So it should be a little bit better for us. So I will still connect with you next Wednesday. I can't think of anything else that we need to talk about, so I'm going to go ahead and turn you loose to finish up your homework. Make sure that you contact me if you still have questions, and we can address those questions as quickly and as soon as possible. So have a good day.
These are you too.
Thank you.